Howdy folks, how you going?
What's your reaction to Adrian Orr resigning?
Look, that's up to the Reserve Bank Board. What's important for New Zealand is we get a really great Reserve Bank governor who can manage the financial sector well and keep inflation stable.
What's your reflection on his time in the role?
Look, I've heard people say farewell and thanks for the inflation, but ultimately this is a guy who had a really important job to do. He's now moved on. And I think what's really important is that we get a really good person in the position next, because if the last 5 years have shown anything, it's how important the Reserve Bank governor role is. The pain people have felt through the cost of living crisis over the last 5 years shows we need to get a great Reserve Bank governor, and that's up to the board.
Who said that person? Who said that?
I can't remember, someone just whistled it to me on the way here.
Well, in the last 5 minutes since it's been announced.
Yeah.
So between the beehive and here.
Well, it's amazing how many people you can meet in that short space of time.
Have you teed up a time to meet with Eric Stanford yet?
I don't think so, but we'll get to it. It's just a very busy week.
Do you not see it as a priority?
Well, to be honest, I've got a lot of priorities and I'm not going to list them all out here.
Yep.
But fair to say it's a pretty busy week and we'll get to her in
Why
good time.
Why did you say there was a meeting supposed to be happening today?
Look, to be really honest, I'm not sure the New Zealand public are up for a live blog of People's Diary organisation, but I can tell you, we'll get to it and good time and it'll be a good meeting.
People are really interested in this subject. There's been a lot of issues with it, so they want to know what the ministers are doing to try and solve it.
Yeah, and again, I've fronted a lot of media talking about what we're doing, been really upfront and honest about this. So the way I approach problems is if there's a problem, I tell people there's a problem, and then we go about fixing it. We've done that with on-time delivery, we're doing that with quality. I think it's going to be a really great program. There's issues we're working through, and I think that ultimately people are going to be really pleased with where we get to.
Do you have any concerns about the costs that schools are facing? That they're having to bring in more people, that their staff are having to take care of the distribution. It's costing them a lot of money in this new school lunch program.
Well, that's certainly a concern that's been raised with me, and we're working through that with the schools. In the case of those with the internal model, where they get delivered the food and assemble, we're actually paying an extra $1 so that they can do that. With the external model, it seems to depend on the school. Some of them have figured out how to do it very efficiently and very cheaply. Others are still working that out. But this is a new system. It's saving the taxpayer a lot of money that we didn't have because Labor didn't budget for this, and each week it gets better as we work through any initial teething problems.
Do you have any reflections on...
questions for our colleague? First one, Christchurch children say they're being burnt by piping hot school lunches. Does that worry you?
Yeah, of course. Anything to do with children's welfare worries me. I've read those reports. I haven't heard about those officially, but obviously we want to make sure that everything is safe for everybody.
And the second one regarding Richard Prebble, did you request that Richard Prebble be appointed to the Waitangi Tribunal?
Look, I'm pretty sure that I was the nominator, and all I'd say is that Richard Prebble is a very intelligent man and a great New Zealander. I think we should listen to what he's saying about the tribunal. Highly recommend, sorry stuff, his column in the Herald today, and I also just make the point that the guy signed up, then he got given a strategic plan which wasn't actually public. So it's a bit rich to say that he should have read everything beforehand. The things that really prompted his decision were documents he was only given 3 months after he joined.
Have you been asked about Willie Jackson's comments on this just now?
I hate to think what Willie Jackson's saying.
He's saying that the appointment to the tribunal and his resignation, so many months after, is a political stunt and an act strategy.
Oh, look. I quite like Willie, he's got a good sense of humour, but this is quite a serious thing to joke about. Richard Prebble is a really serious and sincere guy. I think what's happened here is he's got on, he's been given the strategy for the next 10 years and said, look, I'm sorry, if that's what we're doing for the next 10 years, I'm not so keen. That, as I understand it, wasn't a publicly available document. So there's a perfectly rational explanation for where we are and how we got here. It doesn't require people to go out and make conspiracy theories. And I just make the point that if we want to have a decent country with good decision making, maybe smarter and better, then I think we need to actually think a little bit harder about the level of serious discourse.
What do you think he's claiming in terms of an ACT strategy?
Well, he's claiming that the ACT Party and Richard Prebble have been disingenuous, but I also just make the point that I know Richard, I've got massive respect for Richard. but he's not actually involved with the ACT Party. He was the leader in 2004. So I think we would need to just get a bit of perspective there. Yeah, thank you.
When you calculated those taxpayer savings for the new school lunch program, did you factor in any sort of impacts from loss of local kitchen jobs, those 2,000 positions nationwide?
Well, of course, those jobs don't impact on tax savings. The amount of tax that people pay in New Zealand is based on how much people work, and of course, the school lunch program is a relatively small contributor to the amount of employment in New Zealand.
But was that impacting on your model for this at all? Was that part of the valuation?
Well, I mean, if the government started to say when we spend money, some of that tax comes back, that would end up with some really weird calculations, because we have a sort of an infinite loop. If we spend money, then people will get paid in their jobs, and then they'll pay tax and we get that back, but then we spend that. I mean, you can see why that would be a strange way to do accounting. I think I know what you're getting at, but no, that's not how we do it.
What about long-term tax implications based on how much people earn? There are studies that show that it is impacted by their nutrition as kids. Was that sort of long-term valuation accounted?
Well, yeah, but that's why we actually haven't evaluated that, because we haven't changed the nutritional value. We've maintained the nutritional value, we've just done it more efficiently. Yeah.
Just two comments around the expectation of Richard Prebble reading before being an actual member. Isn't that a fair expectation though? There's a lot of publicly available.
Well, I mean, I've seen his public comments today, and he said that it was the strategic plan he was presented 3 months after he joined. I understand that wasn't a public document that changed his mind. I don't really want to get into this debate. It's not really my debate. Richard could speak for himself, and so can the tribunal. But if you're asking me about the logic of it, I think there were things that nobody could have known until they were in the job, and I suspect that he probably had a more optimistic view of where the tribunal is up to than he has discovered it actually is. And certainly when I read his Herald column this morning, I think it's very interesting, because he's pointed out that this is really a debate about, are we a free society with free markets or a socialist society where the government attempts to make every person equal. Now, as he points out, no government in history has managed to make everyone equal. The ones that have tried have done a lot of damage along the way. However, that's his characterisation of where the tribunal's up to, and it seemed what tipped him to think that was seeing a strategic plan that the people in the tribunal know wasn't publicly available because they had to give it to him.
Will you be making a new suggestion for a new appointment?
What typically happens is the responsible minister, who's Tama Potaka, will go out to other people in the government and say, do you have any suggestions? And then if he does, we'll make them. But that's still down the bridge. He hasn't asked for new appointments yet. He's only just found out about the resignation. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thanks.